Okay. We also have bad debt provision. Okay, contras are grayed out essentially because in standard it's not a feature. It's in the advanced version. Contra adjustments are actually a feature, so you can contra between customer and supplier accounts together. Okay, but bad debt provision is exactly the same as write-off. Okay, but bad debt provision, all it does is post a provisional journal to say we're budgeting for this amount of bad debt. So you've got a provision date, which is today. You can do it based on amount, base it on how overdue it is, a specific customer or all customers. When I go next, it'll pick out all the transactions outstanding. And I can say, well, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one I expect to be bad debts. And I'm not actually writing them off. Nothing's changed on the customer account. All I'm doing is I'm just provisioning for them to be bad debts. And what it'll propose is, right, there's a summary of what's going to happen. And there's the journal it's going to do. That's it. Okay, I'm not going to bother viewing the journal. Okay, now, at some future point, yeah, let's say before the next month end, I'm actually going to have to go into this provision and reverse it. Okay, so so all it does is just make a reversal of the actual journal that's been done for the provision for bad debt, and then I can go and do another bad debt provision. Write-off is exactly the same. Okay, and this can be used to tidy up the ledger. Like, so let's say you've got lots of pennies outstanding on customer accounts. Rather than do a statement run which costs you up to 10p a go, you might want to kind of clear all those off. So this is for writing off small amounts and actually writing off proper bad debts as well. Okay, so you've got the same sort of criteria that you had before. How overdue it is or whatever, but this will actually create, okay, write-off transactions. Okay, and it will post write-off transactions to those customer accounts. Okay, so if I look at the actual write-off itself, it'll give me the details. So a French customer has, so Global Electronics, let's say, the amount we wrote off was 11715. If I go and look at their account, you can see that there'll be a transaction on there called IWOF 002 in their ledger. Oh. Okay, so you can see that there's the transaction, and that's been entered for the bad debt write-off. You can see it's for £117.50. Okay. Okay, so that's new. Find is obviously finding the prepayments that I've done, finding the write-offs I've done, finding the bad debt provisions, the open ones or the history. Now we're into tools. Okay, so within tools, we have EC sales list, intrastat reconciliation, and VAT return. So let's look at the EC sales list as an example. Now, a problem with a lot of systems was that whenever you took a VAT return or an intrastat or whatever it was, if you lost your hard copy or lost the information at the point that you reconciled it, it was always a bit difficult to kind of reconstruct that data exactly as it was when you actually did it. So yeah, you can get day books and things like that, but essentially what we decided to do was if you did an EC sales list or an intrastat or a VAT return and said, right, I want to reconcile it, we took a snapshot and saved it. Okay, so that meant that you could always go back to it, recreate any CSV file or recreate the actual reports exactly as it was when you did the return. Okay, so we're on EC sales list now, and you have to do an EC sales list if you turn over a certain amount with you sell to Europe by a particular amount. Okay, so we're going to do this by date range. Okay, and I'm going to do it from the 1st November. So I'm going to say produce the EC sales list. Okay, so I've got one customer. Okay, that is obviously I deal with in the EC. Okay, and these are all the transactions that I've done with them, and they add up to that. So when I actually create the file, okay, it'll produce a file in exactly the right format that you can actually upload to the customs website, and you can see that it's the well, not bore you with it, but essentially it puts it in the format that you actually have to upload the file to. Okay, and obviously if you reconcile it, that'll save that as a snapshot there and then. Okay. But you can also print it as well. So up to July last year, you could actually print this document. Okay, but they changed it, so you have to actually have to upload it as a CSV file. So it's up to you. You can still print it if you want to for your records. Okay, so that's EC sales list. Okay, now the intrastat okay, works on the same basis, okay, but this is in the customer ledger and the supplier ledger, which I've already done the presentation for. You actually confirm the sales and the purchases of transactions that you've done with Europe, okay, and only then will they actually come into this screen. They've actually got to be confirmed. So you've got to confirm the quality code and the weight and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so let me do this by date range and do this, let's say, for a couple of months to get some data in there. So arrivals are goods in, okay? So if I produce the interest stat, hopefully I've got some transactions. No transactions. Let's try dispatch. Have we got any sales? No, okay, let's go back a bit. Arrivals. Okay, cool. We have one. Okay, so um, so you would obviously put your dates in, yeah, monthly usually or quarterly, it's up to you. We've got a thing here that says include unreconciled transactions. So obviously we wouldn't usually include reconciled transactions because they've already been kind of reported to customs. Okay, so we've got two. We've got a credit note and we've got a GRN because obviously all our intrastat analysis is done on goods received, notes, and sales invoices out, okay, on the dispatch side. Okay, so if I click on this one here and go to Detail tab, it actually gives me the detail behind that GRN. Okay, so I can see the day, I can see the way it was brought in. So here you can see there's the item, there's the description, there's the commodity code, which obviously there should be one. And obviously, when you set this item up, you should put one against it. The the way it was brought in, the terms of delivery, is supplemental units required, and obviously the weight. Yeah. So it's what the system's automatically put in. You decide whether it's net weight or gross weight when you set up the item, and it'll automatically calculate out by the quantity. It's giving you all the other information like what purchase order was it linked to? Is it fully shipped? Okay, so when you actually create the file now, okay, based on this, it will put it in exactly the right format for customs. Okay, so you can see, these obviously columns and fields actually mean something kind of from a customs point of view. Okay, and when you reconcile, so I'm going to reconcile, successfully reconciled, it means that I have saved this, okay, and it's saved, so I can come back to this intrastat whenever I want to, open it up, and I can recreate the file if I needed to, because let's say I lost the file, and it's there for me to, to look at and say, well, Mr. Customs, this is why I created that file. That's why I sent it, because I've got a credit note and a GRN here, and that's what makes up the figures. Same on the VAT return. Okay, so if I do a new VAT return, I'm going to do it by date range, and I'm going to do it by date range to make sure I actually get some transactions in here. Do not include reconciled transactions. Produce the VAT return. And essentially what you can see is the normal familiar 9 boxes. You can drill down on a particular box to say what makes up that figure, the £545. We can see that it comes from standard rate and EC sales. Okay. So if I kind of highlight standard rate, you can see all the individual transactions behind it.